Oh my god, this is so awesome.
This is what it's about.
Learning to land the Beaver in Alaska meant overcoming my fear of being low on approach.
It's going to be extremely high, Steve. But go ahead, we'll try it. But I don't like to do high sink rate approaches, but go ahead. We'll calibrate you, no worries.
Alright, so let's do another one here because
you had too much fun?
But yeah, that was awesome. I also want to calibrate to do it the way you're suggesting. How short this thing can land though, holy crap.
Yeah.
Can you believe how short this thing can land?
Well, actually, if you do a quick 180 degree turn, we'll see our wake.
Funny, the first landing was still the best one. Got it.
Well, don't be the pilot that judges the smooth touchdown that makes you a good pilot. The first landing at an overshoot on final and everything, that's a whole lot more important than any good, nice landings. We're going to do one more until we master this part, and then we're going to go find ourselves another problem.
Another problem.
This is what we're working toward, flying loose formation in the mountains.
Oh, it's crazy how close it looks like he is, doesn't it? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Well, he's close, but he's got a good escape route.
That's Clint in his 185.
This would be an awesome shot if the right seater would have had the ropes in. If you just stay right there, I'll trim that rope for you.
We met Clint in a previous episode. He's an ATC pilot, and we'll meet him again when we fly into Lake Hood. This series started with float flying basics in a PA-12, training with Martin from Apex, Alaska, as we worked up to the DHC-2 Beaver left seat checkout.
Let's do some air stuff on lakes on the way home. We'll get some more landings in on all the lakes on the way home.
Okay, if you got time, we appreciate it.
We got time.
The goal working with the guys from Apex is to learn the basics and then apply the training in several real-world missions.
Very nice. Oh, they're right there. I'm expecting a 185 to go right by.
I was there for over a week, late summer 2018, and we got enough material for a dozen episodes.
That was good.
Good, that's a PhD level lake.
There's an ongoing playlist that I'll be adding to throughout the fall and winter.
There's a house for sale down here.
The river is unforgiving at breakup.
The previous episode was my cinematic love letter to the Beaver. It introduced systems and air work, and it's required viewing before this episode, which covers landings.
I want you to know I got about 35 seconds on flight controls since we started yesterday on the Beaver, okay? You're doing very well.
Appreciate it.
So let's get back to base for the end of Flight 1 in the Beaver.
Going back up there, we got a low fuel pressure light that we'll probably see while we're idling, but we should not see it running a normal RPM. This will be your first clue that you may have missed something on the fuel handle, unless we're completely out of fuel, and that will be a good chance to go ahead and select a different tank. If the engine pump fails, wobble pump becomes the only way to get any of the fuel to the engine. So one of the extra actions you would have to do is keep pressure on that wobble pump come to 5 p.m. Wobble your way home.
Having a similar, although larger engine, the wobble pump on the T6 Harvard works the same way. Anyway, let's get back on board for landing.
I'm reading the surface, pretty calm here, but that doesn't tell me a whole lot because it's surrounded with trees.
Okay, so trying to read it from here, it looks like the wind is coming from that direction.
It does, but I'm going to wait until I'm exactly over it, but that's what I'm seeing initially. It's a kind of a weird lake also. Sometimes one wind in one half of the lake and the other one in the other half of the lake is. But we're going to go and fly over, make sure we're looking for canoes, other objects that we don't want to scare or scare us.
All right, we'll start getting ourselves down to like 800 feet or so.
Yeah, you can work your way down a little bit. So we can see the calm behind the island, calm water behind that perfectly round island, so that indicates to us the wind is definitely coming here. And then we can see the streaks on the water. I see 2 canoes in the bay over there, or 2 objects in the water that appear to be canoes.
At Red Shirt Traffic, you got a red and white Beaver circling overhead for some water work on Red Shirt Lake.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go across the other shoreline and we're going to do a downwind. And we're going to land between that island and the eastern shoreline.
So that small island right there?
Yeah, we'll aim for touching down to beam that.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and bring power back to about 20 inches.
At Washoe traffic 06 Victor is about 3/4 mile flight.
As soon as I maneuver, I like to flap handle down and then add a bit of flaps until you feel the airplane just becomes slightly more stable. I would add about this much right there.
Okay, so
that's about type enough, yeah.
So we're a beamer touchdown?
Yeah. So we don't want to get any slower down until we maneuver on final. We're a little tight. Remember, it's a big airplane.
So maybe widen out?
I would widen out a little bit. We're being actually blown in.
Alright, so I'll turn that into a teardrop?
Yeah.
When it tangles departing runway.
Let's go ahead and turn.
A little bit more
Make sure we look at there. Yeah, we can add some more flaps if you want. See how we overshot completely? We turned base to final when we were supposed to be lined up. But that's okay, we're going to work our way back. Got a good, strong headwind, so that's going to be to our advantage.
After 76 Hotel, it's a mile and a half east of Nancy Lake, northwest bound, 1,100.
Okay. Power back a little bit.
More flap?
Yeah, probably a little bit more flap. Add your mixture and your prop. We're good on gas. Undercarriage is up. And we're going to go and land in the main channel, right? So we can land into wind. Right now what's going to happen, you get behind those trees and you're going to get some dirty air.
Alright, so we're going to straighten it out right here?
Straighten out.
Okay, get into my attitude about now?
Yeah, a little bit. And then hold that. About right there is where you want to be. And there you go. Power back and don't let that nose come down. Hold it right there. Come on all the way back. And as you slow down, I'd like to get the flaps up usually, but there you go.
Wow, that was freaking amazingly smooth landing. Holy crap. That's awesome. Thanks a lot.
So the water runners is down.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. That was awesome.
Good. Well, let's soak in the moment. We got a long lake, but let's just go back a little bit and try to enjoy this first time of airplane. But you did have enough horses galloping. Should you have needed to go around, they were there. Plus, it helps. That little extra helps to get that nose up.
Cool. Okay, yeah, so I mean, yeah, I was way too tight, unstable approach, but we fixed it, and I felt like at no time.
I would say the actual approach was stable, just the pattern was overshot. Just remember, even if we were in a Cub, you got yourself blown in. But it is so hard because there's no center line, it's not your typical runway, but that's what makes it so nice. So we have to be disciplined to ourselves whenever we fly the bush. You pick that water line, you pick that part of the runway on what surface you're landing, and then you got your whole self true to it. But there what happened, we overshot, but we didn't overbank, didn't use rudder, we didn't skid, we came back all along and we landed, or we raised our flaps, we dropped our rudders. Now I want you to tell me where the trim was on landing.
Wow, it's a 0, yeah. Just like you called it, yeah.
Isn't that a well-balanced airplane?
That's awesome. Yeah, because I was trimming it a fair bit during the air work, and that's just where it ended.
Yeah, and then at the end you end up right where we should be.
So gas, we're going to leave undercarriage for now.
Okay, for gas, do me a favor in this airplane.
Yep.
It's on front, verify front, and then take your finger and move it on the front gauge. We got how many gallons?
About 22.
Perfect. Just get in the habit because it is very simple right now. It's front on front, but we want to actually point at both gauges, and this is a good way to. Old timer told me that's a good chance to minimize popping a tank.
The fuel system in this airplane is a little bit challenging to manage, and we covered that in the previous episode.
But actually the closest tank to the engine, which is the Ford tank, is actually the one that has the most piping to go through, because everything connects, all the tanks, to a fuel selector that happens to be located right behind the rear tank. And then it is run from there to the engine. So actually the shortest distance is actually the rear tank, only has to go this distance, as opposed to the Ford tank has to go drain all the way back to the fuel selector.
So undercarriage, we'll leave it for now until we get closer to making our turn.
Correct?
Mixtures, prop, full fine, security, and switches.
Good. We got everything.
And
okay.
then we're going to set flaps though.
Will flaps help us make the turn or not?
Say again?
Will the flaps help us turn into the wind or not? Weather vane or not?
They will.
Will, exactly. So there's a good reason right now, because of the wind. It's not a strong wind, but it's a pretty good steady wind after you set your flaps, is to go ahead and raise the water rudders. And I bet you the airplane will weather vane. Let's see how that happens. Let's see if science makes me a liar. So left would be a good choice. We're going to go left.
Yep.
And you see what's going on? So that's one item we got off the checklist. It's a nice and leisurely turn, and we can cheat just before we get to our takeoff line.
Our power.
We can add power and let torque take us over there, and then once we have the line we want, and I'm going to close my door. And right now I would add some power, so we don't overboost. That's going to help us turn.
36 inches smoothly. Here it comes.
All the way back.
The previous episode also covered takeoff procedures in great detail, so let's move on to more pattern work for the second landing.
So pick your landing line. I would keep the landing line the same way you had it. Now just adjust your maneuvering over it. And that's what's difficult for the people that come in and start doing some bush flying and lake flying, is you got to hold yourself to your landing line. And not make your runway as you turn final. So you're visualizing runway numbers, your touchdown zone, and that discipline actually helps you when the lakes start shrinking. Plus it helps you make adjustments, realize where the wind might be. By the way, how much total time you have, Steve?
Maybe 600?
Okay, I can guarantee you don't fly like the average 600 hours, and the reason is you've done so many different things that this is very impressive, and want to make sure your viewers know it's not the total hours, it's what you do during those total hours, and for sure you're extremely comfortable with this airplane, and literally I think people will see I've been ready to grab controls, but guarding controls I should say, not ready to grab because I haven't had the urge to even, and yet you're flying a very, very nice airplane. So really, you always train and take every hour you count. A 600-hour pilot can actually shame many more pilots. I won't tell you how many thousands of hour pilots I had here where I've been on the controls already. And they were float pilots, so
appreciate it. Well, the training is good. I mean, I have all your tips.
It's your discipline that's good, and that's what I'm saying is you haven't been just flying from hamburger joint to hamburger joint.
Right, yeah, that is true.
You've made every of those 600 hours to be a learning experience. So. Rudders up. And go. Take a point on the horizon, hopefully where the water meets the shoreline. Pitch up, pitch up.
I was a little late on that, eh?
Yeah, keep that nose exactly where it was after touchdown. That's your key. So you notice it's kind of a little rough. Would you consider that rough water?
No.
Not yet. Can you imagine how rough it could be?
Not
so you can process what you've learned.
So I was late on leveling off on that one.
Yeah, and then you did not hold the touchdown pitch. You let it come off a bit, and we don't want to do that. And on a glassy water landing, the floats will tend to have more drag. All this waving kind of helps the drag, and they will soak you in sometimes very violently, even if you land hips up. So you got to be ready to pull it back, but you don't want to yank it so far back that you get airborne again. So it's kind of a maneuver to be ready that your floats are going to be grabbed by that glassy water landing.
So let's see what happens, because I think I'm trying to plan this one based on what I learned. Know what I'm saying? Based on what I learned, I didn't like how far we were last time, and we landed before the island.
Yes, we did.
So I'm going to see if I can do better this time.
Got some gumps check, we're good, got the pass. There you go, that's exactly, feed in a little bit of RPM. So we got enough horses going in the right direction should we need it. That's about as much, nose up, a little bit more power.
That's why we hit hard.
Yeah, a little sync rate, power come back, and very slowly on that stick back, because if you're carrying extra energy, we get airborne again.
Yeah, we still land right in the island, that's good.
Take a look at your trim. Isn't it amazing?
That's awesome.
You're always moving it because you need to, and then at the end of the day when you look at it, that's a perfectly balanced airplane if you ask me. Now what happens if you wanted to see where you're going and while climbing a little bit, what could you do?
Add some flaps.
There you go. So might as well add a little flap so we can see traffic. So now we're able to push the nose down a little bit, see where we're going, and climb. Do you see that long lake?
Yep.
The wind seems to be, the streak seems to be blowing down this way.
Yep.
You have tall trees. Do you agree?
Yep.
Okay, so that looks doable. And the next thing is a depth check. So we're going to fly over, make sure we don't have birds walking on water.
Yep.
Now that we have the altitude.
So should we plan to use this meadow as our final?
Yeah, I would say so. Now we're going to pick a water line, and my water line would be towards that angle coming under us. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
definitely no obstacles in the water here. But we don't want to get too high. You remember your pattern, we kind of want to go down the meadow. So right now, we're going to be extremely high, Steve. And the point is,
Okay.
it's a long lake. You see how, but go ahead, we'll try it. But I don't like to do descending high sink rate approaches, but go ahead.
Okay, I guess I'm
Okay,
trying
we're
to
going to bring it back. We'll calibrate you, no worries. And then we're going to keep that second island on our left.
I don't know, I feel like the way these things sink, but you would have wanted to come in with more power.
I want to come below the tree line when I touch the beginning of the water. That's what I wanted to do.
Alright, yeah, so this is
Okay.
definitely steep. This is our line, we're good, yeah?
Yep, so I'd go ahead and go your prop forward. That'll help you with more drag. What's giving us a break is the wind, but right now I would want to be below the tree line when we hit the shoreline. But we're going to make it, no big deal.
I just gotta get my Alaska calibration.
I know.
Alright, speed is good, final's good, we're stable.
Yep.
I'll
So
start
now we
with
know we're under control. We're going to make sure that when we flare, we look not at the top of the trees, but we talk where the water meets the shoreline. A little bit of horses, that's it. Low power, low power, low power.
enough power.
But not enough power. There we go. Power back. Close up.
How short this thing can land, though. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Can you believe how short this thing can land?
Well, actually, if you do a quick 180-degree turn, we'll see our wake.
Alright, so let's do another one here because...
Because you had too much fun?
But yeah, that was awesome. I also want to calibrate to do it the way you're suggesting.
So the reason we picked this spot is
Why?
because they had a cut below the trees, so lower trees. Obviously, that's a good thing. So we want to use that to our advantage.
I could have been setting up my flare like over those reeds. It's kind of...
I would have come right down that valley without the trees, and then I would have been looking at tree. And as soon as I cross my shoreline, that's a loss of reference. Pick a point on the end of the horizon where the water meets the bottom of the trees, because trees sometimes can have a slope. Add a little bit more power than you did, but just a tad, and hold the nose, and you would have made it. But it was still a very nice landing. But as a good habit, the water behind you doesn't do you any good, and certainly the runway behind you doesn't do you any good.
Alright, so we got a boat right there. He's fishing.
There you go.
Right near our touchdown spot. So we'll just hope he doesn't move, and we'll fly past him.
Yeah.
So far he looks like he's going to keep going toward the shore. Don't you feel low now?
Oh, well, yeah, but we want to be a little lower, right? There's going to be a little point where we're going to be just touching down where that
Yeah,
shoreline
it's so
is.
hard to get used to, but okay.
I know, but we're right now following the contour.
Yeah, so this will be about right now, yeah?
I want to be below the tree line when I cross the shoreline.
Oh, we will, I think.
Yeah. There we go. Now we can start working our way there, add a little bit of power.
Oh my god, this is so awesome.
There you go. This is what it's about. Okay. Power a little bit. There we go. Pitch up and we wait. How much better of a landing this was.
Oh, yeah.
Our back, don't let the nose be tucked under. You see how I grab your floats?
Yep.
And slowly we're bringing it back without getting airborne again.
That was
As
nice.
you get better, we'd be pumping flaps up, but right now I don't want to add that to it. But this is what we do, and what happens is make the airplane heavier and sink in sooner. Your landing roll is shorter.
Right.
Very nicely done.
Yeah, well, that was awesome.
See? Water rudder's down. Let's go the other way, and I think we're going to leave this lake alone now. I'm going to bring a mixture back so we don't foul up too much.
Traffic Cessna 0 to Juliet.
Look what we forgot again.
1200 inbound to 2 Lakes Airstrip at
Oh, my bad too. Missed that. I was just looking outside.
So thanks to Martin and Tim for inviting me out there, thanks to sponsors, and thanks to Patreon supporters for helping create this content.
Right rudder, right rudder. You see how slow we're going? And yet, look what's gonna happen.
That's pretty good though.
Yeah, so look,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It's very easy to end up on shoreline. Now, this is easy. But if we were landing on something like that, and that's why you want to make sure you, rocky beaches, this would have been, it's better to be short and use a paddle and being cool and digging in the floats. Congratulations. I do feel really weird that I'm actually shaking the hand on a Canadian on his first flight on the Beaver. Should be the other way around, right? Very well done.
Awesome.
And again, where's our trim for landing?
Yep, right there.
Isn't that the perfect airplane? Right,
Yeah.
right in neutral. Extremely well balanced.
Yeah.
An icon. It's not a P-51, but in its own way, this is the.
This is pretty.
This is.
This is a pinnacle.
Well, now he's got to process all that, but I don't know. I don't think he. My gut feeling is I don't think Steve's ready for what might be coming down in the Williams Sound, where we're going to be flying at 50 to 100 feet around shorelines and.
I do have to calibrate to Alaska, man. It's hard.
Yeah.